Mega niet het klikker. Thank you. All right. Today, I'm going to talk about you, future you. I'm going to share an idea that changed the way that I think about aging, and it might just change the way that you think about it too. You see, growing up, I was always the youngest. As the younger sister, I looked up to my big sister, Milena, and she taught me everything from what to do to what not to do. And later, I was once again the youngest when I joined Team Canada's rhythmic gymnastics team. There, once again, I looked up to my older teammates, learning not only technique, but also how they carried themselves in sport and in life. And later, while studying health sciences in Canada, my perspective shifted again. This time, I was studying geriatrics and gerontology in practice and working alongside elderly people staying in long-term care homes. And for the first time, I wasn't looking up. I was listening. It was through them that I learned the day-to-day life of a person that's over 65. Granted, they were more like over 85 years old, and even some were over 100 years old. And what struck me most wasn't about illness or accessibility or mobility issues. It was about how disconnected many of them felt from their families and from their communities. Even amongst some of Canada's most privileged elderly populations, I couldn't help but notice loneliness and isolation quietly creeping in. Because when we picture cities, we often think of the obvious. Big buildings, busy streets, subways packed with commuters, and if you're lucky, a park or two. The reality is that cities today are designed for people in their 30s, for people in their most active and productive stages in life, for those that are rushing to work, going to school, or running errands. Not built for those whose pace of life has naturally slowed. And this is a problem. Because the UN estimates that by 2050, there will be more people over the age of 65 than under 5. And even today, there are more people that are old in the world right now than ever before in human history. Cities, as we know them today, they're crowded. They're fast-paced, they're difficult to navigate, they're simply not designed to support this population shift. And that's why the idea of an 880 city is more relevant now than ever. It's actually coined by Canadian urbanist Gil Penalosa, and it's based off a simple principle. If a city works well for an 8-year-old and an 80-year-old, it works well for everyone. And this doesn't mean building entirely new cities. This means rethinking the ones that we already have. And when I moved to Madrid over a year ago to pursue my MBA, I started to see what this looks like in practice. And one of the first things I noticed is how naturally the city supports elderly people. I mean, take Retiro, for example. On any given day, you will see all generations sharing the same space. You have children laughing, young adults running, elderly adults strolling together, maybe sitting in the sun, chatting. The park welcomes everyone. No matter their age or ability, it doesn't feel fake or forced, it just works naturally. It creates opportunities for people to move at their own pace and to connect with others, whether they're 8 or 80. But this idea goes beyond parks. In Madrid, this is visible in streets, in plazas, and neighborhood squares where older residents talk, young children play, and families meet at nearby for meals at the patios and cafes. You know, you'll often see children's play areas located right next to exercise equipment or seating areas specifically designed for older people. These shared spaces naturally mix generations. They don't separate people by age or ability. Rather, these spaces are designed to bring people together. And Madrid makes movement and connection part of everyday life, and that, to me, is the real insight. Because movement isn't just physical. It's incredibly social, too, and I think as we age, staying connected becomes just as important as staying active. In fact, the World Health Organization warns that a lack of social connection carries risks equivalent to diabetes, smoking, and physical inactivity. So when we talk about redesigning the blueprints for aging, it's not about some futuristic technology or overcomplicated planning. It's about creating spaces that make it easy and natural to keep moving, to stay active, and to be part of a community at every stage of life. And Madrid really does offer a glimpse of what that can look like. Madrid is a great example of an 880 city, where movement and connection doesn't disappear with age, but it evolves with you. It moves forward with you. And standing here today, I can't help but reflect back on those early days when I was looking up to my big sister or looking up to my rhythmic gymnastics teammates, and later when I was listening to the elderly people I was working with back in Canada, seeing not just elderly strangers in front of me, but future versions of myself. Because aging isn't about them, it's about all of us. And we're not designing cities for older people, we're redesigning them for ourselves, for the people that we will all hopefully one day become. So, I guess now the real question is, now that we know that movement and connection and aging are all valuable parts of life, well, why are we designing cities as if it's not? Now that's a thought on redesigning blueprints.